Hi there, and welcome to the MSc Cardiovascular Sciences programme Q&A session. We are going to do our best to run through all the questions that have been submitted beforehand, and if you do have any other questions, please do use the chat box to ask those as well. If you've got any questions relating to sort of finance, accommodation, scholarships, things like that, I'll post some helpful links into the chat box for you. And we've also got our postgraduate event coming up on this Thursday, the 6th of March, and there'll be sort of individual sessions going on for those topics too. So yeah, and we are recording this session, so I'll share the link shortly afterwards so you can watch it back. So Paddy, would you like to introduce yourself and then tell us a bit about the programme?
Yeah, of course. So as I'm Paddy Marks, I'm a professor of nephrology or kidney. I'm co-director of the MSc in Cardiovascular Sciences here at my school in the University of Glasgow. It's the School of Cardiovascular Metabolic Health. So I co-direct programs. So I'm a clinician. I work in the hospital some of the time, and I stay in the university office. You can't see it because of the background. I co-direct the program with my colleague, Professor Eleanor Davis, who's we've got a fundamental or basic scientist who works in the lab or works with the team. We co-direct the program. The program is a top master's program around cardiovascular science. Consists of, I just got my in front of my other computers, consists of 120 credits, if you like. Then we have projects in the summer. And essentially we cover many aspects of cardiovascular disease, some introductions to the clinical aspects of cardiovascular disease, cover some medicines or topics of therapeutics. There's lots of stuff around statistics, which is fundamental and important for any research career, but everyone says they don't like statistics, but it needs to be done. We have some stuff about imaging. We've got some stuff, some special modules on heart failure, because it's a particular area of interest in our school. And yeah, that's the program in a nutshell. In the summer, we have a project where each student does a kind of research project that is supervised by an individual mentor, and usually the topic and mentors are framed after discussions to try and meet student needs. So yeah, that's the program. I mean, I could keep talking, or I don't know. Now we want to interrupt and ask more.
Yeah, so you kind of touched on it there, and it's always a common question, but can you tell us more about that project? So when students choose their topic, what the process is like, and when that kind of happens?
Yeah. So the projects can vary between working in a lab, working on some samples, doing some analysis, which I'm not a science, but doing stuff for pipettes is what I will say, or measuring cardiac electrophysiology yourself. Or it could be data analysis of a clinical study, or it can be it could be a review article if that's so, or a systematic review, or that sort of thing. Generally speaking, the students start indicating the types of projects they'd like around now in the year, maybe from January through to March, and usually then myself and Professor Davis match the projects up through the month of March. We're just going to start this month. Generally, the reason we don't have it at the start of the program is we want students to actually see some of the program. They want to have them have a few lectures, hear what topics are ongoing, and it's also in recognition of, don't know, current now or whatever, but the wide range of backgrounds our students come from. So that will often influence the types of projects they might want to do. But yeah, so allocated about March. Generally, students, they can nominate supervisors they might like. Clearly, it's not always possible because people might be actually on leave or different availability. But we also very clearly want students to tell us what sort of projects they want. They don't want to work in a lab. We'll not make them do a summer project in a lab. If they want to be in a lab, we'll try and get them in a lab, that sort of thing. So, so it's very much working with students to try and nail down an area both of interest, whether that's say cardiovascular disease or high blood pressure or heart failure, and then whether it's what we call a wet project in a lab or a dry project working on data, that sort of thing.
Great, sounds like there's loads of choice, which is good. And whereabouts are the classes typically held? Are you on main campus or are you out with?
Generally in the main campus, although timetabling at any big institution is challenging, but we've got a team who do all the timetabling. But of the teaching I have done, it's all been and I always say, we'll take it on the Gilmore Hill campus, the main university campus that you see in all the brochures. It's not necessarily in the main room, so I was across teaching this course. Most of the teaching I've delivered happens to be in the St Andrews building, which is just a little bit across Kelth Road Park from us, but it's, it will within a 5 to 10 minute walk off the main university building. That's all the printed material. Projects themselves, again, can be a bit variable. I'm reluctant to say they can all be done over Zoom remotely, because that's we had to pivot during that for a couple of years. But they will depend a little bit on where the supervisor is based. I mean, for me, I'm based in British Heart Foundation Cardiovascular, which is again on main campus. That's where a lot of the work would be. So it would kind of be centered around the main campus. And again, maybe just emphasize, when they sign up for the course, they're also encouraged to attend events like the research progress meeting for PhD students and the guest lectures, which are all held in the British Heart Foundation Cardiovascular Research Centre on main campus.
Perfect. I always love hearing that, because you think that students have got their classes, but there's also so much outside that they can get involved with, which is always really good, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know this is a difficult question to answer, because I know it can vary week on week, semester to semester, but how often should students expect to be in class, and how long?
So I always I do struggle with this, because it's taught masters in the hours. But anytime I try and schedule a meeting, it turns out they've always got classes on. So I'm like, well, they must be being taught a lot. As I said, it's 120 hours. I think on average they'll have 4 or 5 events on campus in a week, that sort of thing. But again, I would, for specifics on that, it's worth getting the actual course handbook and looking it out. I mean, I've got it on the various modules and where they are. I guess it can vary. The other thing is, although we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6, maybe 8 modules across the TOTS component, that'll be divided into semester 2 and semester 1, where there's a clear break where half of that would be in semester 1, half of that would be in semester 2.
Perfect. And once you sort of register and you start getting put into your classes, that your sort of timetable will become a bit clearer as well. So you've not got too long to wait for that, a few months. And is there much practical work in this MS?
Yeah, so the specific bits of the course are specifically to address that. There's an introduction to full research skills. So that's specifically in the lab. There's other bits around imaging and things like that, which are the basic science, which are practical. I would say the main practical bit is in the actual doing the if they're in the project. But we do have one specific section, because we do want to try and get the students some experience of lab work. We'd emphasize, and good people joining, but this is a taught course. It is a science course. It is not, and for people, you will not be in the hospital seeing patients. Sometimes people see cardiovascular and think, oh, I'm going to be, doing, I don't know, echocardiography. It's just not feasible to do that. It's not permitted within the GMC, the regulators for medicine. So it's not a clinical course. So yeah, so just being a wee bit careful around that.
Perfect. And can you tell us a wee bit more about the assessments that students should expect throughout the MSc?
Yeah, sure. So there's a variety of assessments. Recognizing, as I said, that we have approximately 8 or so modules that need assessed. Some of them are very much in the conventional. It's an exam. The minute is not on campus, although I think that might change next year. So at the minute we're still using the online exams, but they're the conventional timed. Here's 2 hours. Please answer 3 or 5 questions on this topic that you have been taught. Then other sections there's one section which is marked as a student writes a research proposal, again generated from ideas, very free choice of what they write, and that's often very high quality. Others are sort of assessed as sort of a bit like a sort of journal club or poster presentations at a conference. We've tried to vary it, because we know that not everyone likes doing old-fashioned exams. On the other hand, we have to have some exams because we need to be rigorous. I mean, very clear, do not I want the whole thing to be a positive experience, but we do need to assess knowledge at some point to make sure you get your degree. But yeah, so we try and mix it. If I don't think it would be fair or fun on anyone if it was all just written exams.
I'm sure people will be pleased to hear that. And is it possible to balance some part-time work alongside your MSc?
So this is a challenging one. So the official party line is, you're here to be taught, and you're here to learn, and you're here to be taught, and we can't do it. But I am also extremely aware of the financial. I mean, it's mainly financial pressures that drive these things in your modern life, or equally other commitments. People have other things they want to keep going. So I am aware of this. I think it would be possible. I think the challenge is you need to see your timetable and you need to see when your assessments are going to be, and also for your project when your supervisor is available. But working around that, it certainly could be possible. I just think I need to be very careful. Because we can't. To be fair to all students, we can't bend the rules and say, "Oh, they're doing a job, so we'll let them. They don't have to know this bit." So we do need to be fair across the piece, but I think it would be possible to do that. But
Yeah, from speaking to
yeah,
students, it sounds like flexibility is key. So a lot of them work in sort of hospitality and things because then they can get evening shifts or weekend shifts,
yeah,
and it's not then impacting their class time.
yeah.
Um, and what about so during classes, before classes, do students get access to kind of what they're going to be taught that day, so they can sort of
Oh
read over it
yes.
beforehand?
So first of all, they don't get anything much in advance, mainly because we're trying to teach around research findings. So there won't be a set reading list people should have looked at before they come in the course. Sometimes people go, "Oh, I haven't got a reading list." We do just we meet students, myself, Prof. Davis on the first day, go through the kind of expectations, but also arrangement, things like that. For every actual lecture the students get, they should be getting the slides in advance of it. I certainly always make my lectures available 24 hours in advance. I try not. I would love to do it a week in advance. Life is so chaotic, but they for all taught material, the lecture should make the teaching materials, usually lectures, notes, slides, that kind of thing, available usually in advance. I mean, we tell them all to do it in advance. I'm just aware that sometimes people need reminded. But yeah, I do that. Yeah, we don't record lectures universally. We sometimes do when we can, and we have occasionally used that. We used that a lot during the pandemic. The simple reason is that not every room at the University of Glasgow is set up to do that. We wish we could because it's quite a good resource, but unfortunately that's not possible.
Perfect. And is there anything that a student can do before they start their studies in September to set them up to get started on their MSc?
So the things I could do, I mean, as I said, is I would tend to write refreshed rather than putting pressure on yourself because people come from different backgrounds, different countries, different backgrounds as to what their undergrad or previous educational background is, whether they've come from a more professional background, such as working in pharmacy or nursing or medicine, or some people come from a pure science background. So I think people come, oh, I must with nerves. We tend to find that actually these things even themselves out over the course. So I would come with well rested, fresh and ready to learn. If you were really interested, you wanted to absolutely, you know, smash it and be the most dedicated student ever. Starting by looking at our school's website would be a good place, just a School of Cardiovascular Metabolic Health. Um, there will always be the profiles of all the, if you like, big professors, which I'm certainly not one, but the people who are doing research findings and looking what papers they're publishing. Lots of these papers are usually open access available through the universities. Um, but I really wouldn't get too bogged down because I don't want our students to come feeling nervous because that's not what we're trying. We're trying to impart knowledge, and also, you know, they come. Some of the things, the big professors in clinical work will not work in the basic science stuff, and vice versa. So you can't learn everything in advance. So a bit of light reading is not harmful and can improve the experience, but don't get too stressed about it.
Fab. And I suppose another bit of advice is just try and get here as early as you can, get settled in your accommodation, get registered with a doctor, things like that, so you can forget about it and it's done.
Yeah, we always have, I mean, not, we don't encourage it, but there's always one or two people who, for whatever reason, we certainly don't judge, but there will always one or two people who might miss the first or second lecture, and it's be, because of we've had, if you like, visa issues or some kind of accommodation issues or just travel or family issues, and totally we understand that. But on the other hand, missing a lecture does mean you have missed it, and and that's something that is a challenge. So um, trying to avoid those sorts of issues as great as they can do.
And I suppose then after the MSc, what sort of jobs do students go on to do?
Well, it depends a little bit on what the background was before. So then what people want to get out of it. We certainly have quite a few who go from an MSc to to a PhD program. That's a popular choice. And clearly, if that's the case, we try and support students with those applications. Because unfortunately the year just flies by and suddenly you want your next post. So PhD applications are quite a common exit. Not just within the UK, people obviously sometimes go back, they go to another country, either from their own or elsewhere. Um, Others go on to work in other things. So we have clinicians who use this as a springboard to their clinical careers. Or, it's research knowledge, which is really vital for clinicians. Similarly, for people from nursing and pharmacy backgrounds or gone to work in industry. So selection, so back into healthcare. Some people have gone on to there's an NHS, I think it's a technician training program, which is a popular exit. Other people, I mean, I'll give you a wide variety, but somebody done quite a lot in science, but actually wanted to do a degree in medicine and felt the master's was a good place to get started. And so a variety of things.
That's good. Gives students options, doesn't it? We've covered off all our questions here that have been submitted beforehand, as well as ones
Yeah.
that we commonly get asked. I don't know, is there anything that we've not covered that you think it would be good to cover in the last 10 minutes or so?
I mean, not no. I mean, I make it very clear that we want people to both um, enjoy it. I think if you've got a place, it means that we've been through your qualifications and we think you'll be fine. Not Unfortunately, we don't accept every application. We would love to, but it's to make sure we don't. So some people do come in nervous, thinking, oh, because of my background in X, Y, or Z, I won't be able to cope. And then the first day, we've had this where you have somebody who is, a super experienced, enthusiastic person from one background. Somebody finds that they're up in the same class as a senior hospital doctor in another or whatever. We tend to find that if you can get on the course, you'll do great. That's what we tend to find. We've done all that filtering. And then we try and match your projects and expectations. Of course, there'll be some people who will do better at different bits. For example, a clinically qualified doctor may not be so good at the basic science stuff as somebody who's just in their biomedical undergrad. So I think people sometimes get a little nervous with the background in the first day because they're not sure, particularly if they're not from Glasgow. They're, why am I in this city? And by that stage, the weather's usually nice in September, but it usually deteriorates pretty quickly. And then they worry about their background compared to everyone else. We tend to find it's fine. I suppose the other things, we have student reps. We're very happy, both myself and Professor Davis, to meet students as required if there's something specific that comes up. We very rarely had that, and we've got a great admin team. Lindsay, who's been our admin support for many years. We've dealt with all manner of student issues, from the kind of standard financial things to all manner of personal issues discreetly, and it's never held a student back from graduating. So we do try. It's quite difficult in a big organization to feel pastoral and that you're looking after people, but we do our best, and we've got a great support team in there, and we've obviously highlighted lots of things in the chat that helps as well.
Yeah, one thing then, do you find that students set up like their own teams groups and things like that to sort of help each other, or is there something set up more officially by the programme?
So officially, we have the student reps are the main ones who meet myself and Eleanor specifically at least once a semester. Yes, the students often set up things like WhatsApp groups. We don't officially have one. I think this is always a balance because it's like in life, you don't want to be a member of every WhatsApp group, but equally, it's great to keep in touch. And I think I leave that to students. I know quite a lot of them. From the feedback we got from our reps, students did find the social events laid on across our college for top master students. They really enjoyed it. But I know that's not for everyone. So I don't want to say you must sign up to the WhatsApp group, you must do this, but we have generally found students have been a great source of mutual support.
Great. There's a question there in the chat box that's been asked, and it's about somebody's individual application. So I'll just ping you a little email address, and if you pick up with us direct, I can speak to the admissions team for you on that and get back to you. But we have covered all the other questions that have come through there. So that's great. And we have covered a lot of information, which is always super.
Yeah, I've seen both those questions. I would completely agree with you. I'm not going to repeat them for everyone, but I would completely agree with your answers there. Again, on the admissions, if you're still waiting to hear stuff, for example, I've been sent one to assess yesterday. We're processing as fast as we can. There is a team, and we do have a set list of requirements, if you like, around funding, language, primary degrees, etc. If anything's complicated, it gets not obvious. It gets forwarded to myself to have a look and stuff. We try and be accommodating, and if we can't accept, there's a reasonable. You'll get some text around that. Yeah, but individual circumstances are always different.
Yeah. And one thing to note as well, we do have some application round dates. So if you've not received an update on your application, it's maybe just that we're out with that date. So that will, if just a bit of patience, and we will get back to you. We just have quite a lot to get through, and we've got quite a small team that manage all of that. But yeah, you will hear soon.
If it's anything, I've got PGR students, not taught ones, but research PGR students who are again fighting through this as well. So I'm very aware, and I'm logging the PGR teams as well to try to get students through. So yeah, I get it's nice. You just want to get matriculated, get started, or know where you are next September.
Yeah, and actually, when registration is opening normally about August time, you will start to hear more from the sort of program administrator with various sort of dates about inductions, things like that. So do keep an eye on your inbox, and I know that we do end up sending quite a lot of information to you, but just try and keep on top of that because it is all really valuable and really useful information. But I think that's a nice place to wrap up. Thanks very much, Paddy, for taking time out of your busy day to chat to us and answer all those questions. We've covered a lot of information there. Like I said, if you've got any further questions, please get in touch with the programme administrator email address, which is on the programme webpage of our website. And the teams are brilliant at directing those questions. And with those specific ones, just pick up with us direct and I can look into them for you. This recording will be shared shortly, so you can watch it back in your own time. But hopefully we'll see you all come September. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.